Howdy folks, and welcome back to the World of Tanks patch 9.3 test server with your host for today's review, the mighty Jingles. Today we're looking at the T54 Lightweight Soviet Tier 8 light tank, one of the three new Tier 8 light tanks introduced into the game. The Germans getting the RU-251, the Americans getting the T49, and the Russians getting the T54 Lightweight after the LTTB at Tier 7. And the T54 Lightweight is the tank that a lot of Tier 8 medium tank drivers have been crying into their cornflakes about. Why is that, Jingles? Good question, glad you asked. Allow me to explain. Now, you don't see that many T54 Lightweights on the test server. I don't know what it is, there's something about this tank that just isn't as immediately sexy or fun as the RU-251 or the T49. You can see why looking at the T49. It's a KV2 that can do 72.4 kilometers per hour. What's not to like about that? It's a very inconsistent, derpy tank, however. You know, with great derp comes the great opportunity to miss every shot that you fire. But that's the price you pay for being able to do 910 damage in one shot. The RU-251, by comparison, is what most people think of when they think of the words light tank. It's very small, it's very fast, it has absolutely no armour whatsoever, and it's got a punchy little 90mm gun. It's a great little light tank. The T54 Lightweight didn't really look like a light tank. And I think that might be why you see so many RU-251s and T49s and you don't see that many T54s. However, it's the fact that this thing didn't really look like a light tank that is what is causing so much concern with Tier 8 medium tank drivers, and it's mostly to do with, well, it's the armour of the T54 Lightweight. There's very little lightweight about the armour of this tank. It's obviously not as good as a fully fledged Tier 9 T54, but it's also faster and more manoeuvrable because it's a light tank, and it's almost as good as a fully fledged Tier 9 T54. I'm going to flash up Tank Inspector now and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, going to take a quick run through Tank Inspector and just show you what it is about this tank that makes it so special, and it's all to do with the armour. Now, looking at the basic numbers first of all, the front of the hull is 80mm thick on both the upper and the lower glacis. The side of the hull is very flat and is only 60mm thick. And the rear is 45mm thick. The top armour on the engine deck is only 15mm. Top of the turret, 20 or 32mm. Ugh, bad. The side armour of the turret, well, as you can see, there's all kinds of different armour zones here, so it's difficult to say how thick the side armour of the tank is. You're looking at getting through either 120, 113, 91 or 80mm of armour. You're probably not going to have many problems penetrating the side of the turret of the T54 Lightweight, but the front of the turret is interesting. And we're seeing on the T54 Lightweight something that Wargaming have been doing a lot lately when they introduce new tank models into the game. Rather than just sticking a single solid slab of the same thickness armour and saying, right, that's the front of the turret, they're actually giving us layered armour zones. So what we have is the strongest armour on the tank right at the front of the turret, here, 180mm. And then the further we move towards the side and rear of the turret, the thinner the actual armour gets. So here it's 160, up here it's 135, 113, 120, 91 here, and so on and so on. However, it still works because the further to the side and rear of the front of the turret you get, if that makes any sense, the better the armour angling and sloping becomes. So what it means in practice is if you are staring at the turret front of a T54 Lightweight at typical combat angling, you pretty much have to beat at least 200mm of armour everywhere. At least 200mm. That becomes anything between 240 and 210, depending on where you hit it. This 160 is around 200 at that kind of angle. Over here it's over 200. This 135mm of armour, because of that kind of angling and sloping, is again over 200mm. Here at the sides, where it's only 113mm thick, it's a guaranteed ricochet. Down here, where it's only 120mm thick, it's equivalent of 240mm of armour. The the front of the hull as well, at this kind of angling. Imagine the T54 Lightweight has just popped over a hill. He doesn't have particularly good gun depression. He's got 5 degrees, which could be worse. And you take a shot. You're not going to penetrate his turret, so you take a shot at his hull. Well, that 80mm at that kind of angle is the equivalent of 173. And if he's giving you shots at the lower glacis, he's a very bad T54 Lightweight, but even the lower glacis, well, look at that. Anything between 150 and 160mm of armour. Don't forget, this is a light tank. It's got better armour than the T44 Tier 8 medium tank. Hell, it's got better armour than the Panther II. What the hell is going on with the light tanks in World of Tanks lately? Oh, hang on, Jingles. Better armour than the Panther II? What are you talking about? I'm not taking that. Well, here we go. Okay, the Panther II does technically have... I mean, it's got slightly thicker armour. It's 20mm thicker, and it's sloped the same way. But down here, it's only 60mm thick. And the T54 Lightweight doesn't have no machine gun port weak spot in the front either. And the turret of the T54 Lightweight is better than the turret of the Panther II. That's 120mm at the most, and it's flat as a pancake. The T54 Lightweight is a better armoured tank than the Panther II. It just is. And it's a light tank. What the hell is going on? So, T54 Lightweight, it's got more or less the same health. In fact, there's only 100 health difference between this tank and the T44, for example. It's a slightly lighter tank with a more powerful engine, so it's got a better power-to-weight ratio than the T44. It's got a better top speed than the T44, 51 versus 69 kilometers per hour. It turns faster than the T44. It has functionally better armour than the T44. Is there no end to this tank's talents? Well, the T44's turret turns at exactly the same 48 degrees per second as the T54 Lightweight. Is there anything that the T44 does better than the T54 Lightweight does? Well, sort of. And it's to do with gun performance. But there's not an awful lot in it. If you have a look at the T44's 100mm LB1 gun, they're pretty much exactly the same. The T54 Lightweight has a slightly better rate of fire. They both have exactly the same penetration with all kinds of ammunition. In fact, they both fire the same ammunition. They both do exactly the same damage, obviously. The T44's gun is slightly more accurate. 0.35, which isn't bad, versus 0.38, which is not good at all, really. But they both have exactly the same aiming time. So that's it. The T44 is better than the T54 Lightweight in that it is 0.03 better accuracy. Wow. Is it any wonder that people driving this tank are getting very, very upset about this tank? And yet, they're kind of missing the point. It's only really fair to compare the two tanks if they get the same matchmaking, and they don't. This tank regularly gets into games where it has to fight tanks like this. The T44 doesn't. The T44 gets into tier 10 games, sure, but it doesn't regularly get into tier 10 games. The T54 Lightweight does. And having functionally better armour than a T44 doesn't matter when people are shooting back at you with guns that have 250mm of penetration. That's why these tier 8 light tanks have the stats that they do. It's because they have to fight against monsters like this to a degree that tanks like the Panther II, the Pershing and the T44 don't. But while it's fair to say the tier 8 medium tank drivers don't really have any direct threat from these new tier 8 light tanks because their purpose is different, what about the existing tier 8 light tanks? Tanks like the AMX 1390. Is this tank suffering from power creep with the introduction of tanks like the T54 Lightweight and the RU-251? Well, I don't think so. The 1390 is special. It's got an autoloader. It's a fast, low-profile, sneaky little light tank with a 6-shot autoloader. And that autoloader is always going to guarantee The AMX 1390 a place at the table. Anytime you see Tier 8 competitive play, it's always AMX 1390s and AMX 5100s. The autoloader is what makes this tank unique. Are there any other Tier 8 light tanks? They should be feeling very nervous about their future because of the introduction of tanks like the T54 Lightweight. Yeah, there is. The WZ132. If I drove a WZ132, I'd be feeling very nervous. Hang on a minute, I do drive a WZ132. Shit. The thing is, both the T54 Lightweight and the WZ132 are functionally the same tank. They're both based on the same concept. The T54 Lightweight is a cut down version of the T54, as the name suggests. The WZ132 is a development of the Type 59, which itself is an export version of the T54. They're, in theory, the same tank, but they're not, because the T54 Lightweight is better than the WZ132 in almost every respect, particularly armour. The best armour on the WZ132 is 55mm at the front of the turret. 50 what? That's not armour. It's also not as fast as the T54 Lightweight. It has a worse power-to-weight ratio. It does turn slightly faster, 56 versus the 50 degrees per second. Both of their turrets have exactly the same traverse speed. It's got 10 meters better signal range, but it's got 10 meters better view range. Get it right, Jingles. But it's got 10 meters worse signal range. And the guns are very, very similar. Again, with the only real difference being that it's got a better accuracy, same aiming time, slightly better penetration, same damage, significantly worse rate of fire. WZ132 drivers are the guys that should be getting very, very nervous about the future of their tanks, with machines like the T54 Lightweight appearing on the battle. T44 drivers are missing the point. They don't have to fight the same kind of battles that the T54 Lightweight does. The WZ132 does fight the same battles that the T54 Lightweight does, and it's not as good a tank. Let's have a look at some games, see what all the fuss is about. This is DunnoName12. He plays on the North American server. He's driving his T54 Lightweight on the Northwest map. Obviously, on the test server, it's a Tier 9 match. This is going to be standard matchmaking, by the way. In fact, this is going to probably be the best matchmaking you're ever likely to see in a T54 Lightweight. And that's the reason why T44s, Pershings, Panther 2s have really got nothing to worry about. They're never going to find themselves top tier in a Tier 8 match with these things on the enemy team. Tier 9 and 10 matches are the only kind of games that these things get into. If you're driving a T44 in a Tier 9 match, you've got bigger things to worry about than T54 Lightweights, and that's why this thing really isn't a threat to Tier 8 mediums. Well, it is going to be a threat to Tier 8 mediums. It's a dangerous little tank, but it's not a threat to the livelihood of Tier 8 mediums. This thing is for killing Tier 9s and 10s. Your tank is for killing Tier 8s and 9s and avoiding Tier 10s. You have different roles on the battlefield. Enemy tanks spotted. He's thinking about going around. And there, do you see that E75 on the hill? He didn't see that E75 on the hill. And that E75 saw him. Slaps a shot right into the side. Takes off nearly half of his health. He pops out, sees the opportunity to kill the Lorraine. Does get the kill. But gets hit in the flank by a T49. And should have died there and then. But 152mm howitzer firing high explosive. His tracks ate the damage. And that's exactly why AMX 1390 drivers have absolutely nothing to worry about when they start complaining about power creep from tanks like T49s. The T49 is an inconsistent machine. It's fun. Oh, it's fun, but you can never rely on it to do the damage that it needs to do when it needs to do it, in the way that you can with, well, every other Tier 8 light tank in the game. You can do things in T54 Lightweights that would be suicide in T49s, like fighting a corner against tanks like STIs and T54 Lightweights when you've got a 20-second reload. So, yeah. Now, this T95 is in serious trouble. Well, he's in trouble. He's been rushed by a whole bunch of light tanks. But he has... This is a completely survivable situation. Look, they've just nailed the T71. There's a Waffenträger Panzer IV here giving him support and fire. And a T54 Lightweight. And an STI. All he has to do to survive this is nothing. Well, he could do nothing and turn the T95 around. But instead he chooses to... He's actually driving his T95 backwards into the guns of these enemy tanks. Oh god! You know, he's making it harder for his team to help him. He still hasn't tried. Oh man, what's going on? Well, he wasn't much use to the team alive. So, and any second now, there we go. He's dead. So, well, I say he wasn't any use to the team alive. He did at least keep 4 enemy tanks occupied, kicking him to death. And now they're all dead, eventually. I mean, he made it hard work for his team to kill the 4 tanks that were attacking him, but they managed it, so all's well that ends well. Now, who's next? There goes the E75. What's that down there? Ooh, it's a big tank. T54 Lightweight is not afraid of big tanks. Has a quick look. Ooh, 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 ooh. An RU-251. Time for a bit of a strokey beard session while we ponder what to do here. Come on, stroke your beards with me while we have a good think about it. The sound effects are important as well. Yeah, we're gonna go around, get under the 251's gun, and this is where we have a bit of a Jingles dirt moment. He was going after the rear of the IS-6, and oh, look at this. He's now... Oh, that's your 15 degrees of gun elevation. That's how bad that is. He was completely helpless against that RU-251. Luckily, the RU-251 was paying absolutely no attention to him, so he got away with it. The 251's dead. He isn't. Oh, took a hit there from... Oh, it's only a Walker Bulldog. T54 Lightweight is not afraid of 76mm gun. Chew on that one, Yankee dog. International socialism triumphs once more. And as quickly as that, and this game did not last very long. The only thing left on the enemy team is a VK4502. Is he gonna get... He's a long way away. Is he gonna get back there in time to actually do some more damage? Well, you'd be surprised. This is a quick tank. 69 kilometers per hour top speed. Good power to weight ratio. Great suspension. He's going to make it. Now, is he actually going to be able to do anything when he gets there? Well, he's switched to his APCR ammunition. One of the major weaknesses of this tank, by the way, is its ammunition capacity. It only carries 37 rounds of ammunition. And with 240 damage per shot, there's a hard cap to how much damage you can actually do in a game with this thing. Oh, there's the 4502. He's made it. He's going to get a chance to put some shots into him. Oh, you cheeky German bastard. Guess what? Traxated. Ha ha, sucks to be you. Oh, turret top, turret top. There we go. That's it. Nice, easy target. Slightly more difficult target. 0.38 accuracy. No problem, comrade. So, Dunno Name 12 from the North American server, getting ace tanker and coming top on experience earned in a tier 9 battle on the test server. Didn't really get much of an opportunity to see how effective the armour of this tank is, however. He ate 2 shots with his tracks. He got hit once by an E75 in the flank. That's obviously going to penetrate. Once in the flank by a Walker Bulldog, and that penetrated as well. In the next replay, however, you're going to see how the armour of this tank works. This is Serious Threat from the EU server, playing his T54 Lightweight in a tier 10 game on Prokhorovka on the test server. Name like Serious Threat, sounds like he means business. Well, he talks the talk. Does he walk the walk? Oh yeah, he walks the walk alright. This is a significantly tougher match than the game that Dunno Name 12 just played. For a start, it's tier 10, and secondly, The 2 Target 2s on his team are, well, idiots. This team is going to be down 3 to team killing before the match even gets started. So it's effectively 12 versus 15 before we've even started. And that, right there, thanks to the angling and the sloping, is the 80mm of frontal hull armour on the upper glacis of the T54 Lightweight, bouncing a shot of armour-piercing composite rigid ammunition from a Batchat. Oh, the first Tiger has turned blue. They haven't actually team killed anybody yet, but hey, give them time. Oh, I spoke too soon. The Jaegeru has had enough of his shit. He's killed one of the Tiger 2s. Meanwhile, Serious Threats tracks eat a shot from an Object 140. Look at this. Object 140 and a Batchat. Now, they're both focusing their fire on the friendly Batchat and ignoring Serious Threat. Well, you don't ignore a serious threat, because he's a serious threat. See what I did there? Whoa, suddenly a wild IS-4 appears. Well, he takes a hit from one of the tier 10 mediums in front of him, and then, for some unknown reason, this IS-4 decides that the best possible thing he can do in this circumstance is to leave the protection of the hill and drive down in front of the guns of an E100, a Jagdpanzer E100, and another IS-4 in order to fail to do any damage whatsoever to Serious Threat's T54 Lightweight. You see behaviour like this on the test server all the time, and it's because most of the guys in these tier 10 tanks have never driven a tier 10 tank before. Tier 5 is the highest thing they've got, and that's why they come onto the test server, to play with tier 10 tanks. And it's why they drive their tier 10 tanks like they drive their M4 Shermans back on the live server. It's nothing really to be surprised about. Meanwhile, in the team killing drama, the second Tiger has team killed an M48 Patton. He's nailed one of the team's tier 10s before the Jagdpanzer E100 could get sick of his shit and team kill him as well. So they're down 3 tanks to team killing. Now, the 5 degrees of gun depression that the T54 Lightweight has is not the worst gun depression of any tank in the game, but it's still not particularly good, and that means that in order to be able to shoot at this Batchat, he has to show the side of his tank to him, because he just won't be able to get the gun down far enough over the front of the tank. However, while the Batchat did get 2 shots at him, only one of them actually did any damage. His tracks ate the second shot. And by placing his shots through the Batchat's inside drive wheel, he was able to not only damage the Batchat, but also keep him immobilised in place long enough for the friendly E100 to finish him off. And any second now, while he's just making sure he's out of line of fire of that Death Star, yep, that was his turret bouncing a shot of a minimum 128mm caliber from a Rheinmetall Borsig. Death Star's pointing the other way. Well, fine, let's put some fire into him. He's been spotted. There's still some nasty tanks over there on the flank. Object 140 and a 121 over there. Both of them very dangerous tier 10 medium tanks, but he's in a good spot here. He's working the ridge intelligently. He's not giving them anything to shoot at. Put some more fire into the Death Star. E100 comes up, finishes off his kill. He's been spotted again. Ineffective fire into the Object 140. Pops up for another shot. 5 degrees of gun depression, not great, but good enough to do that. Object 140 has just been taken out. So the 121 is still over there somewhere. And then it all goes pretty quiet. No contact with any enemy tanks at the moment. Object 140 and a Batchat up to the northeast. There we go, they've spotted the T57 Heavy. Okay, T57 Heavy now has medium tank problems. And there's the AMX-50B. The Jagdpanzer E100 is liable to be up the road behind them. It's really the only place he can be at this point. And, yep, there he is. It was fairly obvious where he was going to be. Serious Threat guns the engine, stays in the low ground where he can, and wow, look at that. 3 enemy tanks killed in quick succession. He's going to have to haul ass if he wants to get any more damage done here. He's found the Jaegeru. He's closing in on the Jaegeru. The Jaegeru is completely stuffed. He's not even trying. And how would Sir like to die today? T54 Lightweight behind you, or Death Star and T57 Heavy in front of you? T57 Heavy it is. Excellent choice, sir. And as quickly as that, it's game over. So, serious threat driving a T54 Lightweight in a Tier 10 match on Prokhorovka, in which 3 of his team died to team killing, and he manages to walk away with Ace Tanker, Scout, Confederate, and Tank Sniper. He did 4,482 damage of his own, earning 1,700 base experience, and almost 6,000 spotting damage. The armour of this tank, bearing in mind he was getting shot at exclusively by Tier 10 tanks, stopped 1,070 damage. His tracks ate at least 3 shots from Tier 10 tanks. Now, before we get too carried away, this does not mean that the T54 Lightweight is an especially well-armoured tank in a Tier 10 match. It isn't. The armour's good, but it's not that good. You have to make the armour work for you. You have to know what you're doing. You have to understand angling. You have to understand working ridge lines and being able to fire over them using your turret to keep yourself safe. It's not like driving an E75 in a top tier 9 match and just herp-derping around and taking the hits because nobody really knows where to shoot you. You still have to know what you're doing when you're driving this tank to make that armour work for you. One of the complaints that I keep hearing from light tank drivers is that if they're in a situation where their team fails horribly and it's down to them to carry the match, because they're in a light tank and because they have no armour, it's significantly harder for them to carry that match than if they were driving a medium or a heavy. Yes, they have the speed, yes, they have the manoeuvrability, but sometimes you just need to be able to take a hit and survive in order to carry a game. Something that you can't guarantee being able to do in almost every other light tank in World of Tanks, but something that you can do in the T54 Lightweight. So, how to go about summing up what the T54 Lightweight means to World of Tanks? And I think that out of all of the tanks that have been introduced in patch 9.3, the T54 Lightweight is the most significant of them, because it symbolises a change in the way you need to think about light tanks, and is exactly, in my opinion anyway, exactly what Wargaming have been talking about when they talked about trying to make the game more interesting for light tank drivers. And what I mean by that is that with the introduction of this tank in particular, Wargaming are now giving light tank drivers more options. They're giving them more things to do than just be scouts in high tier matches. Now, the T54 Lightweight can still scout in high tier matches. It's perfectly capable of doing it. It's not going to be as good at it as, for example, the RU-251. The RU-251 is more of what people have come to expect of a high tier light tank. Low profile, very, very fast, punchy little gun, highly manoeuvrable, a good scout. Now, the RU-251, much like the AMX-1390, and to a lesser degree the WZ-132, while being good at scouting, does not necessarily mean that they can't fight either. The AMX-1390 in particular has always been a good scout tank and very, very dangerous to tanks of any tier in the latter part of a match. But what we're seeing with the T54 Lightweight is the complete opposite. A tank that is better at fighting than it is at scouting. And that's given light tank drivers more options. And that's exactly what Wargaming have been trying to do all along with the whole rebalancing of light tanks that we're seeing in patch 9.3. And it has never been more obvious than in a tank like the T54 Lightweight. This tank is a fighter first and foremost, and it's a scout second, and that's why it has the armour that it has, to go with the speed and manoeuvrability and the gun performance that it has. And that's what makes the T54 Lightweight so different. Light tank drivers who have been sick and tired of being shoehorned into the role of scout in every tier 9 and 10 game they get into, this is the tank you want to go for. As always folks, take care on that battlefield, and I'll catch you next time.